Engine 1 from Car 1. Car 1's on scene. Assuming command. Give me a C.A.N report.
What's going on, everybody? This is Mike Goldstein of the C.A.N report. Nozzle top, everybody. I have Maine up in the house again, actually from the same department, Ogunquit, Maine. We had Chief Russell Osgood, and now we've got Lyle McKay in the house. And we're going to be talking about leadership, recruitment, and retention. So I know it's a hot topic, but Lyle's got a really good point of view, and he's really actually done a lot of homework on it. So we're going to dive into that. Lyle, thank you so much for being on the C.A.N report.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, my friend. Before we start, I always love to give a shout out to my sponsors, Engine House Designs, LLC. Engine House Designs is igniting the pride. He is a firefighter down in Memphis. He's doing a great job with creating clothing for working firefighters, whether it's your union, your department, your business. If you need hats, patches, flags like that one, hit him up. He's got everything. He's got shirts. He works really, really well with everybody. He's very patient, and he wants to make sure you have the best product possible. And that's why he wants to work with you individually to make sure that you're happy with the end result. And Engine House Designs is also working with the Kitchen Foundation. The Kitchen Foundation is a nonprofit organization built to help us as firefighters, as EMS, police, military, vets. They're working to help us find solutions for mental health. If you need someone to talk to, or if you're just having some kind of issues going on, you can hit them up. It's like the kitchen table, right? We solve all the world's problems at the kitchen table. That's where they came up with the name, and their sole mission is to actually help all of us to do better in life. So check out the Kitchen Table Foundation. They're doing solid things for our brothers and sisters in the first responder and military field. So make sure you hit them up. So we're going to get you going here, Lyle, with your bio. I'm going to bring this up here. All right. Lyle McKay began in the fire service in 2003 as a fire explorer, following his older brother, who is now the fire chief in Greenfield, New Hampshire, which is actually right down the road from me. Following his tenure as a fire explorer, he began as a call firefighter of the Dudley, Mass. Fire Department before becoming a career firefighter with the department. Lyle continued his career in the city of Bedford, Maine, as a firefighter paramedic before returning to Mass. Lyle has had a diverse career serving many communities as a firefighter and paramedic. Shortly after returning to Massachusetts, Lyle developed a community EMS program for the town of Marion, where he served as a career lieutenant and EMS director for the town. Lyle is now a shift captain with the Ogunquit, Maine Fire Department. Lyle holds a master's degree in fire executive leadership and believes that transformational leadership, culture of the fire service, and employee buy-in have a direct correlation to recruitment and retention in the fire service. Lyle believes that leading from the front, empowering, coaching, and mentoring employees is the key to team building and effective outcomes on the fire ground. I love it. Lyle, welcome to the show.
Thank you again for having me.
My pleasure, my friend. Man, how old are you?
I am 38.
38, man. You look like you're 20.
I wish I felt like I was 20.
I was going to say, because you look so young, I like, it was incredible all the things you've done, but still, even at 38, you've done a lot in your time here. And it's awesome that you're diving into these subjects, but also like your fire service career that you've done, you've really hit the ground running.
Yeah, I started off pretty young. When I graduated high school, I had Fire 1-2, my EMT, and went straight into intermediate at the time before there was advanced, and was a paramedic at, I think, 20. So I got right into it, and I kind of took a little break for a while, and college came up about 5 years ago, and started off with an associate's degree and went to bachelor's, and I was like, well, why stop now? Let's get a master's. So just trying to move forward and to really understand some of the challenges in the fire service, because it has changed a lot, and just even the 20 years I've been in it.
So now, this is an off the cuff question. Do you feel like the odd man out at Ogunquit because Chief Osgood and Bruno have amazing mustaches and you have none?
It is true. Actually, I joked to them. I said I was going to get a stick-on mustache for the podcast today, but I failed to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I figured it might have been a requirement. I was looking at the pictures online with you with all the guys, and there's Lyle, with bare lipped, and I just when you're standing next to the chief and you're standing next to Bruno, it was always funny to see.
Yeah, I'd have to start now for No Shave November 26.
Yeah. So, you've done a lot of stuff. So, um, why I'm going to hit the ground with it. Why recruitment? Why retention? Why are you diving deep into this?
I didn't really take much stock into a lot of it until I really started the master's program and kind of learning different leadership styles and understanding, um, you know, how people think and what people really want. And what I started to realize was, I think the easy excuse that we make most of the time is that this department's paying more, and this is why people are leaving, and I don't buy it. And I don't think
Yeah.
people are throwing away seniority or moving into other departments over $1.50, $2 an hour. And we all know how the wave goes. It's 3 years from now we might be the best contract in the area, and 3 years later we're not.
Yeah.
So are we asking ourselves the question of why people are leaving and how come they're not staying? And with today's fire service, it's almost a reverse interview, right? Like, I feel like when I got on the job 20 years ago, it was, why do you want to work here? And now it's kind of the opposite of like, why should I work here? Because there's
Hmm.
so many options. And I remember when I got on my first job full time, it was like I must have applied 5 times. I was, underqualified, overqualified, the only one qualified, and I didn't get hired because it was, the good old boys club, and I was the
Yeah.
outsider. Um, so it was different. Where now it's like, people were in paramedic school and they're like, man, I'm getting picked up by this department. I'm getting on the job here. And, and one of the questions that comes up frequently that I hear from people is, hey, I got, I want to promote up, or I want to, promote out. And I have a lot of different jobs on my resume. Does that, make me look bad? And, 20 years ago, probably the answer would have been, yeah, like, why are you jumping around? And then now I'm like, like when you think about it, you don't just go on one date and go, hey, I'm going to, spend the next 30 years. If you're with someone that doesn't share the same point of view, you're going to have an unsuccessful relationship. And our careers are pretty much a relationship, right? We're going to work and we're getting along. And if we don't, share the same mission, vision, values, goals, and objectives as the department, it's not going to succeed. It's not going to be good. And when you have people that are coming to work that don't want to be there, it's
Hmm.
all going to fall apart.
Yeah, man, you just like sparked my brain on that one. Is that I've noticed that when you said that like people aren't staying in those jobs for very long and they're moving around. It really is. That's a thing, man. Like there used to be like you stay in that department, you're there, you're like a tick, you're dug in, and you're not leaving. They're gonna have to drag you out. And now it's yeah. What who's and like you said, like is the pay gonna really matter? For me, it's not the pay. Like when I left my department, I took a pay cut. And I've known other people that took a lot of big pay cuts because the culture sucked. They weren't treated right, like you said. Like they didn't have the same ideas that we did, or ideals and morals and ethics and culture wise. That you know what, this place ain't for me. I need to find a place that I can feel like myself, like I'm at home. And they don't care now about the pay cut. They'll go get another job somewhere to make ends meet until they can get back up to that pay scale. But people are definitely leaving now because they realize they can. Because honestly, we're kind of in a deficit of employees. We're really fighting for good employees.
Right. Exactly. And I think, that's why when I, sat down and had that long thought about recruitment and retention, I think we need to flip it. It should be retention and recruitment. When
Hmm.
we retain our employees, we're then in turn recruiting less, or it's word of mouth. Hey, this department hasn't hired in 5 years. Here's our opportunity. Now you just, you're making it more challenging. More people are going to want to come into that department, and people are staying. And I always compare it to, Department A and versus Department B. Um, and like I said, people are asking questions now. So when I go into a job interview and I say, hey, how many opens have you had in the last year? And they go, well, hey, I've had a captain retire. I had a firefighter promote. I had another firefighter promote out to another department, and I had a firefighter retire. And then I go to Department B, and they say, well, I've had 7 opens, and they've laterally transferred over the past year. And then the red flag goes off. Like, all right, are you asking those questions? Why are people leaving? Versus, I think it speaks volumes when I hear people are promoting out, promoting up, or they're retiring out. So they've wanted to be there for that amount of time, or they've been developed so good that they could promote within the department or promote out to another department in officer or chief officer positions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess definitely if there's no advancement as well, why are you going to stay at a dead end job? Again, promotion's not everything, but you'd like to get paid more. And, we
Right.
do like to have more responsibilities. And if you're at a department that only has 2 officer spots and those 2 officers are there for 40 years, you're not going anywhere. It's okay to try to find somewhere else. You've gained that experience and that knowledge for 15 years and there's nowhere to move up and you want to lead a crew. Like it's okay to go somewhere else and see what's out there for you. It's about you, it's about your career, it's about your family.
I
So
agree.
I also think about it too is like you said, like why are they leaving? And I think of ourselves as a great Yelp review that um if we're leaving and you don't like the department, what kind of review are we leaving? And that's the thing when so in that department, you leave that department and somebody else wants to come in after you and they say, hey, I'm thinking about applying to this such and such department. What do you think? What kind of review are you going to leave? Because we're going to be brutally honest. It's like, yes, I left because I wanted to be closer to home or whatever the reason is, but I still love them. Or it's going to be, no, don't do
Right.
it. That's why I left. I'm telling you, you're not going to be happy. And I really do feel though it's been more of the negative Yelp reviews than some positive Yelp reviews. And that does carry a lot of weight because when those positions remain vacant for so long, I would hope that either the mayor or the town managers would actually look at that and go, why have you not filled these positions yet? Or why do they keep opening back up? What is it that you're doing inside your department? Because those need to be the big questions, I think, for not just the chiefs, but if the Chiefs are hiding the fact of why people are leaving and what the turnover rate is or why they can't fill those seats, then it needs to be up to their bosses to come into that as well and go, what's going on here? Why are you guys having problems keeping people in the seats and not filling those seats?
Right, absolutely. And, when we think about it too, like, again, people are coming from different departments. They're coming in with experience and they're coming in with education now with, high end degrees. And they don't want to hear, shut up, you've been here a year. They want to have a seat at the table. They want to have a voice. They want to feel like they're part of the organization. And when we shut them down immediately,
Yeah.
we stop communications. And I think everything that happens between the bay doors um, eventually is going to flow out onto what we're doing on the fire ground and in the field. So if I have a person that works for me that doesn't feel comfortable talking to me inside the station, do I think they're going to come to me when something's wrong outside in the field or things are going down? We talk about resource management. Everyone has a voice of safety, and if people feel that they can't even approach you or talk to you, it's a problem.
Yeah.
If you got guys that are pulling into the fire station and going, "Oh man, so and so's working today, or the chief's here. I don't even want to be here. It's going to be a terrible day." Well, we got problems. Why is
Yeah.
that happening? Why do people feel that way?
Absolutely. And the pep talks in the parking lot, I've had many of them. And I've spent every shift in my previous department sitting in that parking lot going, oh man, please God, just let it be a good day. Please let him be in a good mood. And this is usually referring to the chief. And it's like, please just God, let me get through this day. And then,
Right.
we'll see what happens tomorrow. Cause I used to work 4-day shifts and 12-hour 4-day shifts. So in my previous department. So it was literally every day I was sitting in that parking lot, just getting getting myself built up, getting ready for it because, you never know what kind of mood he's going to come in. And, everyone's just waiting, they just stick their heads out of the office and go, all right, I guess we can come out of the box now and see how he's feeling.
Right. Exactly. And that makes for a long career and
It does. Yeah.
poor
So
results for recruitment and retention.
exactly. And also with, when you talk about that, it's again, I think other people outside of the department also should be making those questions if you're having these issues, but also like, I mean, people say it time and time again, and I'm definitely the one who says as well, the human resources part of it sucks. I don't know if in your studies and you're doing this work and looking into it, I feel that when people go to HR, it's a joke. They don't listen. Like I had almost a 2-hour exit interview. I demanded to have an exit interview because things were so bad, and it went nowhere. It literally just it went nowhere, and that's why people usually don't. Like I've asked other people when they left, "Did you get an exit interview?" Well, no, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't go anywhere, and it's so unfortunate because when I spoke to my HR, her response was, "How come I didn't know anything about this? Why am I the first to hear this?" It's because nobody bothered anymore because they knew it was a joke. Now, with your studying and with this whole program you got as project, have you also looked into the big picture of that? Like, because it's not just, I feel like it's not just the department either. Again, it's a whole group effort. The whole municipality is involved in this. So how do you get them all involved to understand we need to fix this?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And that portion of things is that, especially, when we talk about the town hall and human resources, like half the people don't even know who we are. So
Hmm.
again, like I'm just an employee number over there. When I left my previous employment and I left and, again, like after 4 years and creating programs and doing good things, the last words I got were thanks for your service, which was kind of like a right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, so, and there really wasn't any conversation to say, hey, why are you leaving? Like, is there a reason that you don't want to stay here? And, I probably would have explained why I was leaving and the things that were going on. And again, it comes down to direction and goals and the mission. And I wasn't aligned with it and where the direction the department was going. And I wasn't going to hold myself back because the
Yeah.
department wasn't going in my direction. But I think you're right. I think there needs to be more questions and conversations. And we do lack and fail on that. Someone hands over their 2 week notice or says they're leaving, and we go, okay, well, what do we do next? We're going to, set out the process to hire someone else. And there isn't that conversation. Okay, well, why are they going? And what can we do to prevent it?
Yeah. So we were discussing earlier with your whole outlook on this and then your project that you did, and um, you with your doing your masters and looking further into this. You talk about the three pillars. What is it?
So I believe leadership, the culture of the fire service, and buy-in. For me personally, I'm a transformational leader. I believe that we're all working together for a common goal. Working together
Describe
for
transformational leader. Define that.
transformational leader. Sure, is a leader that works with a group of people for a common goal, empowers, coaches. It's not a dictatorship. It's really giving your employees that power of involvement in the decision making that happens. Of course, there are times where you're like, hey, I got to put my foot down on the captain, but there's also times I want, hey, if you're my operator of the truck, I expect you to have a pretty good idea of what you're doing, and I'm not
Mm,
going to say, well, step A, step B, step C of what you got to do and micromanage you, because that's not going to be successful for a good working relationship. um, and really, you talked to Chief Osgood about the boat thing, and to me, that was one of those big moments. Like, hey, yeah, I'm ultimately in charge of the operation and the mission and the decision making. But at the end of the day, I'm looking behind me going, hey, I know my guy. I know his
mm,
experience level. I know what he can do. And it's putting trust in him. Hey, do you think you can do this? What are your concerns? If there are concerns, let's back out and, reanalyze. And we had to do that a couple times. But,
yeah.
I think giving trust and empowerment to your employees and letting them know, like, hey, like, the show doesn't work with just me. Like, it's all of us working together to come up with our success rates.
I love it. So have you experienced that? Is because again, you have that drive and this mission to rectify a lot we're talking about, and you kind of hinted about it from your previous departments. Have you been I hate to say victim, but um have you dealt with it? Have you had these issues of being micromanaged, having poor leadership, or not being listened to?
Yeah, I think that's really kind of what built me, is realizing, I think when you're younger, you're very impressionable and you think, you're like, oh man, this guy's awesome. And then like 20 years later, you're like, all right, this guy didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Or, you just had poor leadership from people, leadership by fear is a terrible thing. Um, but one of the big things too is like is the empowerment thing. Like if we're holding people back, and I remember my previous department, they'd all give me a hard time. Like, oh, Lyle earned all his degrees sitting upstairs, and it's like, no, Lyle managed his time well and had a couple free hours, and while you're sitting with your boots up watching TikTok, I'm reading a book.
Yeah.
So And then they'd be, oh, it's stupid. You're getting degrees, and I don't know why you're doing all that. And it was like, why are people trying to hold you back? And then what it becomes is that they're afraid of you because you have something they don't have, or that they're not willing to do or can't do. And knowledge is power.
Yeah,
So I
man.
encourage all
Yeah.
people.
I love that, dude. Like, right there, knowledge is power. And I know there's a lot of mixed reviews about, people who have their certifications and people who have the education and, you're a paper firefighter, that you hear that a lot, right? And, when you have too many certs, but I think if you're doing it right, because I just made a post about it, like you can have all the certifications in leadership, but if you still treat your employees like an asshole, you're just the most certified asshole, right?
Right.
So, and it was awesome that Chief Candace Ashby, she replied back to that, and she says, it depends how you can have those certs, but you have to take that information and then apply it, and and make it to so you can use those skills and knowledge that you acquired. And I think it's so right. Like I used to be that way. I used to be like, who needs this and who needs that? And as I started getting older, I'm like, you know what? These are important. Yeah, they're going to build my resume if I want to advance in life. You're going to need them. And I know, again, like the real salty guys, like, no, it's all bullshit. You don't need certs. You don't need this. But I do feel like there's really valuable information in those classes, and it teaches you some really good skills. You still need the life skills, but you still need the book smarts as well. You got to, there's a way to combine them. It is definitely a skill, especially for what we do in our life. Like we can't open up the book and figure out how we're going to attack this fire. We don't have that ability. But if we're reading, absorbing the knowledge, taking notes, and training, whether it's skills on personnel or skills of how to cut a roof, we're still taking those same skills and applying them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for our job that's so dynamic and, our hazards are always evolving, we need to be life learners. And I believe in the training triad, which is, training, education, and professional development. Continually learning those things. Because again, you could take an officer class 20 years ago, and the way that we treat people and handle people is much different. And one example I always use is 20 years ago, someone said something at the kitchen table and you took it as gospel. If I say
Yeah.
something at the kitchen table right now, they're going to be 5 minutes later on Google and YouTube, and they're going to go, "Hey, Cap, they're doing it like this. What are you talking about?" So it's, there's so many more avenues for people to get the information, and it's not just what's coming out your mouth anymore that people are just taking for face value.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And we have all that information at the tip of our hands where you just said it, where they can, especially young ones, can prove us wrong right there. So you got to be read up. Because if they're gonna be like, no, because they're gonna scroll. They probably scrolled something. Went, I read this really quick, and for 5 seconds, and you mention it, and they're like, no, I'm gonna fact check you, and they're gonna look it right on their phone and then put it right in your face and go, nope, you're wrong, man. So it's you have to be, really ready to go with your answers and be strong in your beliefs of what is right. Because sometimes just because they Google things, you have to show them it's not always right, whether it's a skill based or, some educational things, but sometimes they read out of context. And that's our job, is to be able to help direct them to the appropriate answer, not just because they read it on the website, but here's the reasons why this is posted this way or why they did that.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think that really segues well into, buy-in is, they want to know why now. Before, again, 20 years ago, someone slapped a memo down and said, this is where we're doing it. This is how it is. And no one said anything. And now they're going, well, why? So if I sit there and give them no answer, it's not very conducive. But if I say, hey, we got to do a little bit more documentation. The reason we're doing it is because we want to, get some more data points. The data is important for, trying to get more manpower and staffing. And they go, oh, okay, light bulb. I bought into it because it makes sense. It's something that's going to benefit me, benefit the department. This is why we're doing it. And, truck checks, another thing. If we don't update the truck checks and we don't have the stuff that we're not giving them the tools to do it correctly, and then, we're like, oh, something was missing. And then we got to come down on them, and they come back and go, oh, well, this hasn't been updated in 5 years. And
Yeah.
this piece of equipment has been on here. Like, again, how do we hold people accountable if we don't give them the tools? And through my experience with, leadership and discipline, is 90% of the time, it's people just don't have the necessary resources to do it, or as an external force. I don't think anyone really comes to work and like, oh man, I'm going to be a a menace today. I'm going to cause all these problems. It's usually something that's very simple. And again, with creating good programs and buy-in and giving people the tools to do the job. And again, people want structure. People want to come
Mhm.
to work and know exactly what's going on. They want to know, they want to be part of the team. They want to be part of the conversation. And if we don't structure them and give that to them, that's when they kind of wander. And then as us as officers get upset, we're like, oh man, they're not falling in the line. Well, let me take a step back and go, did I set out my expectations? Do we have strong policies and procedures that build expectations that then breed accountability? It's those things, and people want that. They want to be part of it. They want to be part of the organization. And until we take a step back and go, all right, am I giving them the tools? Am I setting them up for success or am I setting them up for failure? And I'm sure you've worked for departments too, and you looked and you're gone, man, this place is just setting people up to fail.
Yeah. And like you said, the accountability, and it goes to everyone. And, just because you have the bugles doesn't mean that you can't fail, and you have to hold yourself accountable. If you get something wrong or you make a mistake, or, if you, again, just even treat them like shit, like you said, like just because you're like the 1 year guy doesn't mean you don't have a voice. If something's wrong, he needs to feel comfortable to be able to talk to you and say, hey, Cap, I found something wrong with the truck check sheet. It's 5 years old, and, or 10 years old, and we don't even have that piece of equipment anymore. And I keep checking it off saying it's not in service. And if you turn back and lash out at him and say, shut up, it's the way we've always done it. Well, now he has no buy-in, and he's just going to shut down and pencil whip his truck check sheet. And then you're going to be pissed off when something breaks.
Right? Exactly.
That happens a lot. It happens a lot when, that's where complacency comes in, and we can't have that. Right. And you see it from a lot of departments, especially busy departments, that the trucks, will go on trucks like engines, they get used and abused, and we just start putting band-aids on things, and it just becomes normal, normalization of deviancy, right? Like we just continue to just pencil whip things because it's the way we've always done it. I've complained, but it's just gonna continue on, and I you could be the squeaky wheel or fall in line. So it's a tough call for to try to build people up.
Right. No, absolutely. And, I think as an officer that, if you promote it up thinking it was going to be easier, then I think you're wrong. I think it should be the hardest position every time you promote up and within, because you need to be, on top of the game and know your stuff and stay relevant within the changes that are happening in the fire service. And that's why, when I became a lieutenant at first, I was like, all right, well, maybe I should get some more education and like, a little bit of fire behavior knowledge mixed with some building construction, makes a little bit of tactics of what we're going to do. So
Hmm.
having a good understanding was important to me to do those things. And then, kind of as I branched up to further on into leadership and administration stuff and degree wise, I was like, but there's a whole lot here that I don't think a lot of people understand, when it comes to managing people. And again, I don't even like that term because I lead people and I manage problems.
There you
Um,
go.
that's the way, I like to think about it. And, you know, some people will be like, oh, this guy's going to take this class or this guy's, if you're worried about someone taking your job, you got a bigger problem. Like,
Yeah.
I want to know that, hey, I want you to be prepared to take my seat. Yeah, I still got 19 more years where I'm at, but, eventually I want you to be able to promote up and promote, you know, in or wherever you go, and it's my job to get you there. So to give you every piece of knowledge that I have and then to steal whatever knowledge that you have that I don't know or that I'm not strong in is important. And that's what really builds, good team building together.
So is that your way of leading from the front and empowering and coaching and mentoring then? And your whole key terms are your pillars. Is that really it? Is, letting them kind of lead and see where they go with it, and you want to see them succeed and move up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the best things I can hear from outside is when people say, hey, I don't know what you're doing over there, but the guys like working with you. Or people are like, hey, I wouldn't mind being on shift with him. Like, I can come in. Hey, what do you want to train on? What do you want to do? Is there something that you're really good at that you can teach me that
Mm.
maybe I'm not great at rigging up systems. So let's work on ropes or, Frankie's the boat guy. So, hey, Frankie, take me out with the boat, get me going with that. And, he's going through paramedic school now. So now I'm really pushing, paramedic with him and leadership stuff because I know he wants to move up eventually. So it's really just having all that and being a team player and working together and letting people have a voice and people wanting to come to work. Because when people want to come to work, they're going to work hard for you. They're going to do good things for you. And another important thing, especially as an officer, is being present. Go out on the floor. I like to be the first one up in the morning. I'm up first. I start unloading the dishwasher. I start getting the mop bucket ready, and no one's going to walk by you and sit down in a recliner if you're out there doing work.
Right.
So it's just that leadership mentality of like, hey, I'm doing it. They're all going to join in and do it too, but I'm not above it just because I have a couple bars.
Yeah. Um, do you think that people advance too fast? Do you, especially now with, like you said, we have a recruitment problem in a way, and we're not gaining a lot of people in, and we have had a lot of people leave due to retirements, and we've had a lot of holes in the fire service that need to be filled. And some of those holes are being, especially the officer positions, are being filled by people with 5 years on. Do you think 5 years on is enough? Do you think they promote too soon? What is a lot of questions, because I always constantly think about these things, like, because I hear them like, the guy has promoted too soon. He doesn't have enough years on. He doesn't have enough experience on. You know, you name it, people have it. Like, what is your thought process on advancing? Like, how soon is too soon?
So I think first off, I have to think about what's the motivation. Are these people promoting because they really want to be a part of the leadership of the organization, or are they promoting because it's a couple more dollars an hour and they're making a little more money? I think that's an important thing to think about. And then what are their plans with going forward? Like, do they understand where's their maturity at? There's a lot of people that 25, even at 30. I wasn't the maturest person at 30 even. It took me a while to kind of get my
Yeah.
shit together. But, are they able to be in that role and understand, all the facets of leadership? And it's not just going to fires. And I think that's what people think of all the time. Like, man, I'm going to be in charge of an engine company because we go to fires. Well, it's dealing with the human resources end of things. It's dealing with the leadership. It's dealing with people. It's managing the problems that come up day to day, and it's understanding even the legal stuff that goes on of going, hey, like, some of the stuff that we did 20 years ago wouldn't pass the sniff test today when it comes down to if it actually got put into a legal format.
Hmm.
So understanding what the risks are and where the line is. And, and I'm all for people to go out and get their education, to do their training, and to have the opportunity to promote up, but it doesn't stop once you get at that level. And if you're looking at your contract going, well, just as I have to have officer one, I've done it, I'm done, well, then
Yeah.
there's a problem. It's time to go, hey, what else do they have out there? I just recently took was a company officer academy last year with Lasky and Salka. A lot of repeated information that I've heard throughout the years. But again, it's always good to see a fresh perspective of things, and to even catch a few things that maybe I missed from before. So it's always staying relevant, keeping up, doing those things. And, I don't want to discourage people from getting there, but I want them to understand just how involved it is to be in this position, and, how much responsibility there is to not only, your department and your crew, but the community that you're serving.
Yeah. No, it's a great point, man. Absolutely. I had a previous officer. I remember him saying that, I want my officers to be the hardest working people on the fire ground. I want you to be dirty. I want you to be as dirty as your crew, even dirtier. They need to see you working, and, or they just need to see you, like, it isn't necessarily a fire call, like you said, but the, there's a lot of factors that go into it. It would be fun to be able to do fires every day with our crew and get dirty and get jobs, but the admin side of it is not glamorous. And I think when you start getting that seat, especially on the bigger departments, there's a lot of red tape involved. There's a lot of report writing, and you just sit there in front of that computer for almost your whole shift. If you've got like 4 guys on your shift, you have 4 reviews you've got to do. You've got 4 whatever reports you do, and all the other reports that come in for your shifts of all the calls you ran. Like, you're sitting in front of the computer. The other guys don't have to do that, right? Because if they're not running an ambulance, they're okay. Lieutenant's in his office. We don't know what he's doing, because sometimes they don't even bother to ask, and they're sitting in front of the TV because they ran hard and now they get to take a break. Well, that officer, you have to go finish your reports. If you're 5 calls deep, that means that's 5 reports you now have to do for the years. So it's not that easy, and it's not that glamorous because people don't see that other side of it.
Right, absolutely, and, taking that further when you say the reports is understanding, the liability. These are, they're legal documents that we're creating, so making sure that we're writing them up appropriately and accurately and understanding that there is potential that it could land in a courtroom, and I've been in the courtroom on the good side of things, and it was awful, so I can't imagine what it's like being on the bad side of things.
Now, when you took your master's degree and you had the fire executive leadership, was there a, what did you have to do for that?
So, once I completed my bachelor's in fire administration, I had to complete 12 more classes, and they're all were really kind of functioned around, different leadership stuff, team building, a lot of even interagency communication, working with other departments, understanding, demobilizing and getting everything back into recovery mode from bigger incidents. So kind of more executive level stuff that could go on. But the more prominent classes that I really like are like the legal ones where you learned a lot about legal law. Some of the stuff that we don't think about it on the everyday thing, or we're like, oh man, I read some guy posted something on Facebook and he got in trouble and he got fired. Is it legal or not? And
Hmm.
you kind of dive down that that rabbit hole. So a lot of classes like that, and just really just how to talk to people and build teams and what works and what doesn't work, and how to mainly just how to treat people, which I guess just it's a big just be nice to people. It's really
Yeah.
not that hard.
It's honestly, it's not that hard for some people, but it's pretty difficult for other people.
That is true.
To be honest with you, right? Like there's just people who are just not friendly, who are just not nice, and there's some of the people we have to work with, and
Right.
that's a tough one. So we talk about retention and we talk about recruitment and leading from the front. There's people that are just not that nice, and it's not an easy thing for them to do. They just come off like dicks. And have in your career, have you had to deal as an officer? Have you had to deal with other officers being like the negative mentality coming at their crews or just not being fun to work with?
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked for a few different places. So looking back at some other places, I worked as pretty much the full time lieutenant, and then there was all call officers. So it was kind of really weird, but it was hard to really interact with them because I'm in there Monday through Friday all the time, and then you had them kind of coming in from the outside, even though they hold a higher rank and maybe not as much involvement in the department, and so that I kind of like fell into this reign of like there was people that I had that were like pro followers of me, and then you have these other people that are more pro followers of them, and it made things difficult to really be a cohesive group and work
Mhm.
together when you had so many different ends pulling at each side that were unnecessary. And ultimately, I don't think it was something that I could have fixed from my position, so I left. But if how do you fix those problems? How do you get that on one same page? And I think combination departments like that, it's much more difficult than maybe if it's an all career department and you're kind of all sitting at the same table as equals. Um, so when I think about it too with recruitment retention, like it's a total different monster call department versus career department. It's a total different conversation to be had. And my view is mainly for the career
Yeah.
department.
Yeah, because it is a different beast altogether. Because again, I came from a call department, and we're there as call members because we want to be, because we're not really getting
Right.
like we get paid, right? For every call that we're on, we get paid. But other than that, that's it. I mean, we go because we love it and we want to serve our community. We can't be firefighters somewhere else at that time. Like for me, I the way our community runs is, you have to get all your education to become a full time firefighter, to be hired. Call members, they'll give you everything, so you can come in and be a call member and start doing fire stuff. And that's why we were there. We want to learn, we want to grow, and we can't do it anywhere else. And it's cool. We get to do it in the town we live in. We want to be there. So for a career, I'm getting paid to be there. So sometimes like you have to put up with the shit because you are still getting paid, you're getting benefits, and you don't really have a luxury of just walking right out because you need to provide for your family. As a call side, you can leave whenever you want for the most part because you're not dependent on that money and you're not dependent on the benefits. And I think that's why, at least from what I've seen, my point from my experience is that for call members or volunteers, I think it's really difficult for them to stay when they're being mistreated because they're like, yep, I'm out. I don't need this. I already have stress in my life for my full-time job. I'm here because I voluntarily want to be here and help my community. And you're treating me like shit. So I'm out. I think, and then that's when they start leaving. But like, nobody really cares about that anymore. Like I feel like the small town politics are like, oh, I guess we'll just hire more full times then. But they don't really ask the question, why are your volunteers not coming back? Why are you not getting more volunteers or call members? What's going on behind those doors that you're losing people so quickly and you're not getting more call members or volunteers? Because it's also, I think, a change of the times, right? Like it's not like it was back in the 70s and the 80s and 90s where you're there because that was the love of it. You know, had all the old TV shows of, emergency and that's what we grew up with. But now it's not that anymore. So that's a tough question for those volunteer departments, those call departments. How do you retain and recruit for those smaller departments?
Right, absolutely. And I kind of break it down to two different categories, and it's the guy who lives in town that just wants to help out his community, and that's why he's on the fire department. And then you have the other person that's looking for a career position within the fire service that's doing the job. And the problem becomes we don't have a seat for them on the bench to play. They leave, and I think the answer to that is town's hiring more full time people and investing in full time programs. Eventually needs to be a thing. Again, like the
Yeah.
investment to the department and training and everything right now for the volunteer fire service is so difficult. And I give it up to those guys that go through it and put in the time. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very difficult. Again, I've seen both sides. I've worked both sides. And like for my previous department, I was one of the first full-time hires because we saw the necessity. We weren't getting people coming back for calls. Like structure fires, like we were waiting to get a truck out. We were waiting for a second truck to come out. Like the town selectmen were like, what is going on? Why are not people coming to this call? Why did I have to wait so long for this fire? And, the chief's like, well, we don't have anybody. No one's showing up. Like it was the middle of summer. Everyone had summer off and they're vacationing. And so they said, okay, well, we have to fix this. And then it started to, they started continually build more of a full-time staff. And those call members are like, well, then I'm not going to show up because I get out of bed at 2:00 in the morning to come to the station, hoping to do something. And I'm, like you said, there's not enough, you're sitting on the bench because there's not enough room because the full timers are there and they've taken the truck because that's their job. They're not going to wait for the call members because they're hired there to get out the door.
Right.
And
exactly.
exactly. Right. So then you show up as a call member, you're like, well, screw this. I'm not going to come anymore because I'm wasting my gas. I'm wasting my time. I got to go to work in 3 hours and I'm not going to sit here at the station and sweep the floor anymore. I got to go. So you start losing those career or the call members and volunteers because there's no longer any room for them. And that sucks, because they're wicked passionate. The volunteers and call guys, they're, like I said, they're there because they want to be there. They're voluntarily their time and energy and money to literally be there when the moment comes. So I got my hats off to all the volunteers and call members out there. You guys are awesome. It's just a little tangent I have. I strongly believe in that. That's what the backbone of the fire service was really built on, was our volunteers, right? I mean, and I think we are slowly starting to lose that. I see it on feeds. I see in the news that more stations, volunteer stations, are closing because they don't have members to fill those seats anymore.
Absolutely. It's a difficult position to be in. And like you said, even, I was a call member in my hometown and I was like, all right, by the time I get there, the truck's out the door and I'm just sitting there. What am I doing?
Yeah.
So if
Yeah,
I
and
don't
they're
want to go,
right. And they're like, I mean, the captain or the chief are like, well, you're there in case another call comes in. Great.
Right.
But again, it's a small town. So it's not like you're automatically getting a whole bunch of other calls because you're not getting a whole lot. So when the big call comes in, and I mean, man, dude, I was guilty. Like I would fly down the street. Like I was going Mach 10 from my house to the station because I lived 7 minutes away. So I would just fly down the road because I knew I wanted to be first due. And but now again, there's a crew there 24 hours. You're not making that first do truck anymore. That's their job. And it's,
Right.
do I sleep better at night knowing I got a 24-hour stationed crew? Absolutely. Because now I know my home is protected, my family's protected. But again, the call members, they're like, what am I here for? I'm not going to do
Right.
anything.
Yeah, exactly. And they want the experience and they want to learn, and it becomes difficult. And I think the only way to really integrate that is to have Coleman shifts where they're in house with the career and working together. And it just works for us in our system. Is they have third man during the summertime where we're able to have a per diem with us, and they train with us, and they're first
Mm.
in on all our calls. So it's a better situation than them coming to an empty station.
But Ogunquit's unique too because you guys are a big vacation community. So like in the wintertime, you're I don't want to say skeleton crew, but you're pretty thin because you don't have a lot, right? You don't need an increased manpower because there's no one visiting Ogunquit, Maine a whole lot because it's so cold. The beaches are closed and there's not a lot going on. But in the summertime, man, you guys are rocking. Like it is, and if anyone's never been to Ogunquit, like I had Chief Osgood on and we were talking about it. It is a beautiful town. The beaches are beautiful, the scenery, the hiking. There's so much to do in Ogunquit, Maine, and it is a gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous community. In the summertime, it is popping, but then again, it dies right out when the cold hits.
Yeah, we're running 2, people per shift right now, and we'll up to 3, back in May, when the seasons come back around.
Yeah,
But even 3, I mean, it's terrifying to fall
yeah,
asleep at night going, "There's 3 of us on duty, 20,000 people in town. What could go wrong?" High occupancy structures,
and you have a
busy
lot
downtown.
of and you have a lot of old structures, historical structures. And when we talk about building construction, you guys have a lot of that old material. You have the balloon frames. Again, it's an old New England town, and you got a lot of wind coming off from those beaches. That you guys had a good couple of fires where that wind was taking it. I mean, I think you lost a restaurant, or not? You didn't lose the restaurant, but you had a really big fire within that restaurant, and wind was a big factor in that. And you guys with the weather you have and the conditions you have, it's really really tough.
Yeah, there's absolutely a lot of challenges, and high hazards, in our town that we have to contend with. I think we do pretty well with the staffing that we have, but there's always room for more people, and it would
Yeah.
be great to have, a fully staffed engine company and a paramedic level, ambulance year round.
So with again with the recruitment retention, do you have any kind of outline for your area? Do you kind of have an idea what you want to see happen? Do you have any ideas for fixers?
So I'm currently kind of in the process of working on putting something together. I'd like to kind of bring this, to different departments and have the conversation of just leadership in a way, and how we're training and mentoring and coaching our employees, and how we're talking to them, and having those conversations and constantly reevaluating ourselves as officers. And there's times that I have to take a step back and go, all right, I need to, like, get myself back on pace, whether I'm dropped off a training or I've dropped off with doing something that I should be doing, and
Yeah.
just kind of keep myself in check. And then everything kind of comes together through that. But I think it is important to have these conversations to really understand why our employees there, and talk to them. What makes you what do you want out of this career? You're going to be in this job hopefully for 25, 30 healthy years. What do you want to succeed in? What do you want to see? And again, they're the future of the fire service, our firefighters. So if we're not building for them, we're not building it for me. I'm going to be gone. So, what can we do to make things better all across the board and benefit our community?
So with that again is what is your plan? What is it that do you have something um that you're looking to like more build, like yeah, you talked about it, like you want to plan for the future, you want to build the people up. Do you actually have a structure? Do you actually have, like I say, a 5 year or a 20-year plan laid out for you, how you're going to implement this or how to educate others within your region?
Yeah, so I'm again just in the infancy of kind of putting this together, and really want to build kind of a program for mentoring, aspiring leaders and officers as they come up.
Mm,
I hear it a lot that, and think about it, like you go to paramedic school for 2 years and you're trusted with all these people or one patient at a time, but then, you pass a test to become an officer and next thing you're in charge of 6 to 7 people in a community. And, there isn't a lot of extra training that really goes with it or preparing that goes with it for the most part, at least in my experience. When I came on and
mhm.
got lieutenant, it was like I went from firefighter one day to lieutenant the next day.
Yeah.
So, preparing, putting programs in place where we're mentoring and coaching them and giving them the opportunity to go through different assessments. I think we should be continually doing assessment centers even at the firefighter level, just to go, hey, like this is what to be prepared for, and when we practice it now, we're going to
Yeah.
be better at it then.
Yeah. Oh no, I love that, man. And man, I think mentoring is definitely a big key in a lot of it. Um, I think sometimes we get so busy within our fire lives and our own personal lives that when we see somebody that's really a shining star, if you will, and we don't do enough to mentor them, and they get lost in the shuffle. There's I mean, everyone should be treated fairly, but there's some good people that really have a lot of ambition and drive, and they just do their thing and they don't ask for anything. They continue to do their job, and because that's who we want. We want people to be able to literally do your job. You don't have to brag about it. And as officers, I think sometimes too we have to have you need to have your eyes open for those good potential candidates, and offer your mentoring services to them and say, I see something in you. Man, I wish someone like in my career so far, it would have been fantastic, if I'm like, hey, you know what, man, you're really driven. Like you're here early all the time. You're here doing just the most mundane things, but you never complain. And you're learning so much. You're taking all these classes. I see that in you. I want you to start a mentoring program. I want to show you more about my job so you can understand, because I think I see officer material in you. And I think sometimes we don't really grab a hold of those people. And then they're the ones who actually usually shy away from wanting to be officers because they love their job so much, as whether it's tailboarding or, driving, they're happy with that and they're content with that. But sometimes maybe it's just a little extra, little bit of a nudge or coaching from our officers to say, man, I see something in you. I don't want it to be wasted. So let me show you more about my job. And I'm going to take it one step further.
No, absolutely, you're 100% right there, and I think that's why we need to take the time to learn about the people that work for us and that we work with, and from their family life to their passions to things they enjoy. And when they feel comfortable talking to you and they can open up and say, hey, maybe I'm thinking about stepping outside of my comfort zone to
Mm,
do this training or go to this class, what do you think about it? Throw that encouragement their way, and
yeah.
maybe they wouldn't have done it if they didn't have that extra push and know that someone's standing behind them going, hey, you can do this.
Yeah, I love it, man. Because, I mean, sometimes all you hear is like, "Hey, when are you going to go to A school?" Or "When are you going to go to when are you going to be a paramedic?" Like, did that person ever show that they had interest in paramedicine? No. So why would you really ask them if they're going to become a paramedic? But if they're showing interest in pumping, or they're showing interest in extrication, or they're showing whatever other kind of field, then embrace that and nurture that and grow with them and show them some more things. If you have a good working knowledge of that, like, yeah, let me show you a little bit more on that. But pushing them to do a thing that they've obviously are clearly not wanting to do, that's not their direction. But if you say, like, you know what, man, he's leading his team, like he sees something wrong, and he's not even a senior guy, but he's doing things. Hey guys, let's clean this up, or hey, like this needs to be done, or that needs to be done. I know this is a shortcut. I'm telling you, this is better. I got a hydrant over here. Like, that's the forward thinking. Those are the people we really want to mentor and to grow into better positions and move up and fill the seats that we've been. Not just somebody who's either reluctant to be an officer, or wants to be an officer because they don't want the other person to get it, because they'll be damned if they work for that person, and or they're just getting it because they don't want to have to work hard enough. Those, if you see somebody who's working hard and driven, like, embrace that, mentor them, show them what this job is like.
Absolutely. And, people want reinforcement. So whether it's positive or negative reinforcement, it's needed. And,
Yeah.
take the time at the end of the day and say, hey, good job. You guys did a good job on that call or whatever. Or, there's times you have to go, hey, things didn't go up to expectation. Here's our corrective plan. This is what we're going to do to move forward. It ends here. We're not going to, this isn't going to drag on for 3 or 4 shifts, but we're going to fix the problem. And people are receptive to that. And, they kind
Yeah,
of need that. So
they
take the
do.
time to say, hey, good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like I said, I've said it many times. Like I don't need a pat on my back every time I show up for my shift or that I wash the truck. I don't need that. And then most people who really care about the job, who are driven and love the job, they don't want it either. But sometimes it's just nice to get a little pat on the back after a long shift, or they did their job exceptionally well. For an officer just to be like, dude, nice job today. That right there, it just makes that person feel fantastic and shows that there is that buy-in, that they do matter, they're appreciated. Just a little simple um, pat on that back and a little words of encouragement goes a really, really long way, which will help for retention.
Absolutely.
Because there's like, man, there's people who say we're seeking the bad leaders, right? And there's really good leaders, right? You can seek them all day long. Like that's honestly, I think that's the easier part. There, when there's a bad leader, because nobody hides that. Like people complain, but I think sometimes like when you have an officer or a chief that takes the time to do words of encouragement, that's a good leader. And I think we need to seek the good leaders. We need to actually appreciate them and talk about them. We do talk about a lot about bad leadership, and there's a lot of bad leaders out there, but there's so many good leaders that I think we really need to seek them out and show them to the world. Like, look, this is a really good boss, and I really, really appreciate him. Let's seek out the good leaders. Let's not glorify the bad leaders.
Absolutely. I agree. I've seen it in my career, like I said, some negative leadership, but I've seen a lot of good leaders that
Yeah,
have, taken the time to be with their guys and to lead them in the right direction, and even give them the little extra kick in the ass when they need it. And
yeah,
sometimes that's all it takes.
absolutely. Like that's again, strong leadership is being encouraging, but being able to put them back into to a place when they need it. If they're not doing their job, man, like, yeah, dude, there's nothing worse when you disappoint your boss. When you really,
Right.
really respect them, right? When you have that respect and they show disappointment, man, that's bad. Like I could get yelled at all day long and be like, fuck that guy. But if the guy is like, man, I am disappointed in you. You're so good at this job, or I really expected more out of you, man. It's just like when you do it to a kid, like, damn it. And then you really feel bad. You don't feel
Right.
angry.
Exactly.
You feel bad. So it's so important to be able to, that they love who you are, that you encourage them, and that you can also correct them when they need to be corrected. If they screw up, you got to tell them, hey man, you screwed up, but I got your back, but I'm really mad at you for that. Don't make me be an officer. And that's usually when that person hangs their head down and goes, you're right. I'm sorry. I totally screwed up. And they'll beat themselves up for it. And then that's when they care. They care about you. They care about your opinion, and they want to do better. And they'll come in working even harder because they care about you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's how you get those guys to stay. Like you can pay them a crap load of money, but if you're going to keep treating them like shit, they're going somewhere else. That's just usually going to be the way it is. They're not like, why am I going to stay here? I'll just go somewhere else. Closer to home is going to pay less, and they treat me better. So,
Yeah. I mean, I very rarely hear from people that go, hey, I'm making $15 an hour more at this department. That's why I left. It's usually, oh, things weren't really going in a good direction. Had this issue with this leadership role or executive function, and it crumbles from the inside the firehouse, and it's going to fall apart on the outside.
absolutely. I love it. So for you, Lyle, do you have anything else coming up? Are you going to be teaching anywhere? Do you teach anywhere? Do you do anything?
So I don't teach anywhere yet. This was kind of like my first introduction into like having this conversation. So thank you for
All right.
having me. So for the future, I'm hoping to, again, build that somewhat of a mentoring program for aspiring officers, and going around talking about leadership.
I love it, man. That's great. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for your future. You've got a great head on your shoulders. You know what you want out of life. So you'll probably be like an ex-chief somewhere, if it's not for Ogunquit, but for somewhere. I obviously see that for you because you're very driven, and you got like, I love that you're here for a good reason to develop something to help us in the future, to help our firefighters, and keep this awesome, positive culture that we have moving forward.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me. This was awesome. And hopefully you'll stop in and say hello when you're up in Ogunquit this summer.
Oh, absolutely. Every summer I go up there, man. I love it. Now, if anybody has any questions, if they want to know about what you're doing and the program you're building, can they contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can contact me at lmckay@ogunquit.gov, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions, or if anyone would want any type of public speaking, I'd be more than happy to come out and do some type of presentation.
Beautiful. When's your next article coming out?
I got to work on that.
Because I think you got something, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm waiting to see your name in one of these articles coming out about leadership, man. I know it's going to be fantastic. So, Lyle, thank you so much. This was a really great conversation. I enjoyed it so much. Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So, well, that being said, man, this was a great conversation. Lyle McKay from Ogunquit, Maine. Again, a great vacation spot. I'll give Ogunquit a plug because I love it so much. If you're not from the area, if you're looking for vacation spots in the New England area, please visit Ogunquit, Maine. You'll find Captain McKay, Chief Russell Osgood, and Firefighter Bruno. It's a great community, a lot of shopping, a lot of great food, beautiful beaches, resorts, you name it, it's there. Absolutely fantastic vacation spot. They even have trolleys, which is really cool. That's what I think my childhood memories when I vacationed up there is the trolleys. You have Polly, you have Molly, you have Lolly, you have Holly. Is there another one?
You might be missing one. I haven't been keeping track of the names.
Yeah. So those are the trolleys. So everyone got the theme, right? The ollies behind them. So yeah, man, I absolutely love the area. I love going there with my kids and my wife. So thank you so much, Kat. This was a great conversation. I also like to always end it with talking about mental health and talking about leadership and talking about doing the right thing and being there for your crew. Next Rung is one of those guys that is there for us. So if you're ever looking for help and if you have any mental health going on or you're just down in the dumps and you need someone to talk to, you don't think there's anyone else that cares about you. One, we do care about you, so you're not alone. But if you feel like you need to talk to somebody, you can reach out to Next Rung. Let's see if that actually, there we go. Next Rung, there's the barcode. We also have the number. Next Rung, they're doing great things for all of us. I'll read you the number for anybody who's listening. 833-NXT-RUNG. That is 833-698-7864. You can text support to speak with a peer support provider and text info to learn more about their organization. So check them out. They are a nonprofit and they're here all the time for us. You can text them, you can call them. They'll help you find services if you need it. So please reach out to Next Rung if you need to talk to somebody. The first step is talking to somebody. So please reach out if you do need help. So, Lyle, thank you again so much for being on the C.A.N Report. Thank you all for listening and tuning in. You all be safe, stay well, and here we go. Nozzle top.
Nozzle tough.
There we go, man. All right.